Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me on What's Your Story Radio. I really appreciate all the emails and all the texts that I get from you about my guest. That's why I'm still doing it. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it because you love it. You're connecting with other people in the world, and that's the most important for me as far as I'm concerned. When people come on my show and tell their story, it's their own unique story. It's about them. It's what they've experienced. There's no judgment on this show. We might not do things a certain way someone else does them, but you know what? That's their story. It's not ours. And that's the beauty of What's Your Story. Everyone has the opportunity to come on and talk about their story and how it's made them, how it's broken them, how it's made them happy or sad or whatever it is. So again, thank you all for being here this evening. I'm broadcasting live on Facebook here tonight from Seattle, Washington, right in the heart of Queen Anne. And my guest today, this evening, is Brice Hancock. And I want to tell you a little bit about Brice before I introduce you to him. I just met Brice basically a week ago, have heard about him for a while, and now I can say that I'm really, really grateful that I know him. So he has been clean and sober for 4 years. To someone who's not familiar with alcoholism or addiction, it probably seems ridiculous to think it's an accomplishment to stop drinking yourself to death. To someone who's an alcoholic or an addict or who knows an alcoholic, it's a pretty big deal. All I know is that in his case, it was hard. He only has one story, and it's still the same. And I'm not going to tell his story. He's going to tell his story to you. But I want to share this with you because this is the light at the end of the tunnel. Today, I co-create my life with a higher power. I refer to as God or the universe or even as the force. It's not a religious thing. It's a spiritual thing, and it's the driving force behind my life today. I'm far from perfect, but I have devoted my life to being the best version of me possible. I try not to cause damage to others, and I try to help other addicts live a life of recovery. I have good relationships with the people I love, and most of my problems disappear when I focus my attention to helping others. I could go on and on about all this. I have so much gratitude and hope, which is something I never had before. And this is what he says about his son. My son's story was supposed to be, my dad owned a bar and died when I was 2 years old. And it's not. And I can't put into words the joy that this gives me. I love my friends and I love my life. And here's where I say, go ahead. You can say it. Go ahead. Say it, Brice.
Hi, Kathy. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
It's so nice to see you and so nice to have the opportunity to talk with you this evening. But you forgot to say, and here's what I say.
What do I say?
Booyah!
Oh, booyah! That's right. That's right.
I love that. You say
Thank
it a
you.
lot.
Yeah, I used to say it more.
I've seen your posts and you say it a lot.
Yeah,
It really does make me smile for sure.
good.
So thank you so much for taking the time to come on tonight from Denver, Colorado and share your story. And it's quite a story. So tell us what your life was like before you got sober.
So, I don't know. But where do you want me? How far back should I go?
You know what? Whatever you think,
So,
it's totally fine with me because it's your story.
I don't know. You know, like alcoholism runs in my family, and I did not know that. And so when I went off to college, I kind of thought that everybody drank the same way that I did, and very quickly became a daily blackout drunk. But it's still in college. It seemed like it was almost okay, right? And then after college, when I graduated, when most of my friends matriculated into regular life and got jobs and families, I I didn't. I went the opposite direction and very quickly became addicted to heroin and crack. And but I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to play music, and as such, I was able to like learn lessons and sort of dial my drug use back sufficiently enough that I could continue to like, have a music career. And I just drank, and then I drank and I drank and I drank and I drank for 2.5 decades. And then at the end, I was completely physically dependent on alcohol. I had gout. I had sores all over my body. I was dehydrated. I'd wake up every day with the shakes and I'd throw up blood. I was bleeding when I went to the bathroom. I wasn't healthy. I wasn't healthy, right? And so every morning I would wake up and I would drink and I would throw up to keep the rest down. And then, and that's what it was like just every day, and I owned a bar at the end, and, alcohol was my life. I made a living selling alcohol. I drank alcohol. I was surrounded by alcoholism and alcoholics, and it seemed very normal. So I was shocked because I was in and out of the doctor, and I remember my liver, like they test your liver enzymes, right? Which means how much of the liver enzymes are leaking into your bloodstream. And the normal level was 100, and mine was 1,500. And so I admitted, I copped to how much I'd been drinking, which was about a half gallon of vodka a day. And he came back in the room and he showed me his chart, and it said alcohol abuse severe. He said, you're a late stage alcoholic. And he said, your liver is cirrhotic and your pancreas is stressed, and I think your heart's going to stop if you don't stop drinking. He said, I give you 1-2 years to live. And I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop for over a year. And so that last year was hard. I knew I was dying, but every day I was like, well, I'm not going to die today. I'm just going to get drunk today,
Yeah.
And so it's just, I don't know. It was hard, I didn't know any other way to live though. And I was just shocked that I was dying in a way, because I thought I would live to be old, like an old functioning alcoholic, but that's not the way it went for me. So.
No, and thank goodness it didn't. And you're here to talk about it today.
Yeah, I'm really lucky. I'm very grateful to be alive. Yeah. It was hard. It was hard to stop. It is a hard thing to quit, and it's like a whole process. And even as an alcoholic, I didn't know anything about it. I knew nothing about alcoholism.
Well, and two, I think, if people don't understand alcoholism, which I didn't until it happened in my own family, they think, well, just quit.
Yeah, it's killing you.
Just quit drinking.
Just quit, right? Yeah.
No big deal. Right?
Yeah, right. The thing is, like, alcohol, when I look back, alcohol wasn't my problem. Alcohol was my solution. It was my attempt to solve a problem.
Right.
And then it got me. You know what I mean? Then it got me. And then, it's a whole physical thing. It's like a physiological thing, and I just could not stop. And then when I could stop, I couldn't stay stopped, because there was just this obsession of, drinking and thinking about drinking and recovering from drinking and thinking about not drinking. And it was all about drinking. Little else was getting in.
And you had a son as well.
I had a son, yeah. And
you have a son still.
I still have him, yeah. And he won't remember any of that. Hopefully he won't remember any of that. He was 1.5 when I finally got sober, when I finally ended up hitting bottom, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is too, is that when you say it's hard, it's hard.
It's hard.
It's not like it just, you wake up one day and you go, I'm not going to drink anymore.
No, and that's the point, is if willpower worked, it would be no problem, right?
Right.
Willpower doesn't work for an alcoholic. You have to reach out for help. And most people don't make it. Most alcoholics don't make it, And I was, I was fortunate. It didn't seem fortunate at the time, but I had like a nervous breakdown, and I ended up in a mental hospital. And, a bunch of things happened to me in there, right? I went in one way and I came out a different way. And it got me to surrender to I lost my, it's like this, like we're raised, you know, and men maybe especially, I don't know if that's true or not, but we're raised to think that if you want a good life, you're going to do it. You're going to go out and you're going to get it and you're going to do this and you're going to do that and you're going to do it yourself and on your own. You don't ask for help, right? And so that was smashed, like that was gone. And I was finally teachable and I started to listen to people in a different way than I'd ever listened before. I'd always judged and separated myself. And once I got out of there, I listened to things differently, and I was open-minded. What happened is I became open-minded, that maybe I wasn't the first person to go through this, and that my tendency towards selfishness was at the root of my problem. If that makes sense.
Yes.
But yeah, so I ended up getting involved in 12-step program and saved my life. You know, it's just the most transformational thing that ever happened to me. And lots of people have transformations, right? Lots of people wake up from this hypnosis they've been living in, and they realize a lot of the things that they think are absolutely not true or not important. And this was just my awakening. You know, this was what happened to me. This is what woke me up, you know, almost dying from alcoholism.
I mean, again, almost dying doesn't really normally happen in alcoholism. You die.
Yeah,
Okay.
most people die. Yeah.
Most people die from alcoholism if it's that bad. I mean, your doctor told you it was kind of the end.
Well, he said, I don't think I can help you. I don't think I can help you stop. Because unfortunately, denial is a large part of the disease, right? And there's this rub. It's like, how come I can't learn that one drink won't turn into 24?
Right.
How come my friends can do it, or how come my father can do it, and I can't do it, right? And so the only thing that works for someone like myself, I won't speak for everybody, is absolute, complete abstinence. I can't put alcohol in my body. Something happens. This phenomenon of craving takes over, and I don't stop until something external happens or I run out. Right.
So, what is your life like now? I mean, how did this process of drinking a half a gallon of vodka every day to not drinking at all come about? I mean, yes, you decided that your life was unmanageable, I'm sure.
Absolutely unmanageable. And that was another part of it, was like, because self-will, like, in the program I'm in, they say that alcohol will kill me and self will kill me, self-will. But self-will didn't always fail me growing up. I was capable of doing a lot based on self-will, but I was not capable of drinking. And so, like I said, I had an experience where I was in my office at the bar, and I had like a breakdown, and I called a friend and asked him if he had a gun. And he told me, we're going to get you to rehab. And I felt really good about that. And they didn't. They took me to a mental hospital called Centennial Peaks here in Colorado. And,
oh, yes, I know that. Yep.
Which turned out to be amazing. At the time, It was very humiliating. They take your clothes, they take your belt, they take your shoelaces, they strip search you, they take your cell phone. And they put you in a little room, and they come by every 10 minutes, and they write on a chart to make sure that you're doing okay and that you're still alive, and they take your P&R and your signs, and they detox you. They medically detox you from alcohol, right? So I just had this experience where I was watching the fireworks. It was 4th of July, and I was watching the fireworks through a little crack in this 15-foot high fence, like 20 miles in the distance, and they were just tiny. And I was feeling so sorry for myself. Like, why me? Why does this keep happening? And my son had come to see me that day, and when they went to take me away to go back to my group, and they took him away, he started to cry, and it hit me right in my heart. It just floored me, like. And that's when, like I said, my tendency towards selfishness, like all of a sudden it wasn't all about me. And then later that night, I had this experience where I realized I wasn't the only one to ever go through this. And I felt this connection with mankind, like this like unity that I had never really felt before. And I sort of felt like, if I can hold on to this feeling, maybe I'll be okay. And that's when it shifted for me. It was like a physical feeling, like a shift, from just me
Right.
running the world from right here to
Open.
maybe if I get out of the way a little bit, different things will happen in my life, right? And so, I worked the steps and I looked inside and I took like a real self-appraisal, like a real, they call it a moral inventory, and I did all this work and I did what I was supposed to do, right? And then at 2 years sober, I had another awakening. I went back and I got back into therapy, psychotherapy. Went way back to like early childhood stuff. Like that's where all this crap comes from. I don't care.
Right.
I don't care who you are. That's where it comes from, right?
Yes.
And it was like another layer of like, woo, man, I'm messed up, right? But
we all are.
I know. But that's part of the fun, right? And like, so I just was like, that's when I realized that I want to live a life of purpose. It's not enough just to be sober and here, like waiting to die or paying bills. And that's when I started to like look for my purpose, like what I'm here to do. And, I believe that. I believe we're all here for something. And if you don't know what that is, find it, because it's so much better. Like when I wake up and I know who I am, and I know what I'm doing, and I know who I love, and I know who loves me, and I know that if I do that, it'll help people. And, so I came up with this. I mean, I didn't come up with the idea of sober living, but I fell organically into it, right? And so it's just, it's like I've never been so happy. I thought when I sobered up, my life would be over, right? And that's when it really began,
Because it is a journey. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight.
No, the saddest thing is that it took me so long to figure it out. Like if I didn't have such a strong constitution and I would have like succumbed to the alcoholism faster, I mean, maybe I could have saved a little time. This disease stole 2.5 decades of my life. So that's about, I know.
But what you're doing now
is
giving it back little by little in a whole different way, I would assume.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. And I watch guys and I watch men and women come into my program and I watch them do the same thing that I did. And I have a bird's eye view because I'm on the other side. And it's like, you can recover. Just do these things, and don't do these other things. And I watch them and I watch them get better. And it's like, I'm like addicted to miracles now, and it just really lights me up,
Well, too, I truly believe that, like, going back to what you said about, finding people to be part of and that you were missing that in your life, finding a group to be part of. I mean, I absolutely love that. I mean, I was in Al-Anon for years and I really got so much out of that group and being able to have that cohesiveness of a village, because it does take a village.
Yeah.
And that whole thing is it's very interesting how we just sort of don't really think about that as the person that is trying to get sober. They don't think about being in a group. They don't think about any of that stuff.
No, we have this idea that we're like separate from
right.
other people or separate from God, or if there is a God, it's definitely not something for me, right? But then you start to in groups like that, the authentic sharing that goes on,
right?
And you really you feel that kind of a connection, and for me it's the best way to learn. It's just if I'm being honest and someone's being honest with me, and I can feel that they're speaking from their heart and they've gone through the same thing. I know what I mean? It's just it raises me up. And
well, what's your life like now? I mean,
well, now I'm surrounded by recovery. I have a beautiful, very lovely girlfriend. She's very nice, and she's in recovery as well. And we have 3 kids. And I have all these great friends, and I'm not going through it alone, nor do I expect to go
That's
through
right.
it alone. You know what I mean? Because I just don't have to.
You don't have
Well, you
to.
don't
None
have
of us
to. It
have
doesn't
to.
work anyway. Like if you're
No.
just doing it on your own will, you can't. It's too
Yeah.
small, right? And like the point, like what I try to do is build a life that's so big and so complicated that I have to rely on something else to get through it because it's so big and complicated. I can't do it alone, right?
And we're
And
all connected, you
yeah,
know?
we're all connected, right?
Yeah.
Whether you think you are or not.
Mm.
And Gabor Mate says that the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety; it's connection, connection. And
How are
you
your
know
relationships now?
they're great. I have good relationships with the people that I love. My relationship with my son is amazing, and my relationship with my parents is amazing. I went to they're part of the Rotary Club and up in Evergreen, and I shared my story with them for the first time. They've never really been that interested in it, and I'll tell you, the Rotary Club is not an AA meeting, and they were they were shocked
I bet they were.
to hear some of the stories. Yeah, um, but it's the
But
relationship is really good.
but that's what it's about, is creating understanding around alcoholism and drug addiction so that we can help each other. It's
Yeah,
not like, oh my God, look at him over there. He is he's a piece of work. He's a mess. He's this. No, it's a true addiction. It's like somebody that has cancer.
yeah.
We don't say that about those people.
No, it's the only disease you can have and get yelled at for having
Yeah.
it. But and maybe that person is a mess. But one of the reasons why it's so hard to get help is because it is looked down upon so much. There's like such a stigma, and there's a lot of shame involved, and nobody wants to admit they're an alcoholic. Partly because it's looked down upon. It was hard for me at first to admit that. I don't care now. I've got a very big mouth about it. Because I believe that I didn't know you could be happy and sober. I had no idea. And if I would have known where I knew people that were happy and sober, it might have been easier for me to get in because I fought it tooth and nail as long as I could.
What caused you to start Mile High Sober Living? Because I want you to talk about that. And if anybody out there is from Colorado that's watching right now or is going to watch this in the future, I want you to know about Colorado at Mile High Sober Living, because this is a place where you can come for help.
Yeah,
And people there care about you
they
and
do.
they want to help you
Hmm.
and they don't think you're a shithead or anything like that,
No, we don't think you're a shithead.
right?
Yeah, so I,
Come
I
on
was,
over,
yeah,
right?
yeah, like I reached a point in my life where I was in this, I don't know, I'd somehow like managed to get a big house and I was making pretty good money as a realtor. But I had this, I don't know, not fulfilling relationship. And I was in this big house that I didn't really like, and the job was okay, but it wasn't my passion.
Right.
And I was so depressed. I was just so depressed. And I, like I said, I ended up back in therapy and I sold the house. I got rid of a bunch of stuff. I cut off the relationship and didn't get it back. And I started to look like, what am I going to do? Like I said, who do I love? Like what lights me up? And I remember thinking, well, I like AA, but I can't make a living doing that. But it was something, right? And so I was like, well, I want to be in recovery. And I was watching a documentary, and this guy had helped one of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, believe it or not. And it was a MusiCares meeting, and I went to a
Right.
MusiCares meeting, and I asked the therapist, what do we need in the recovery industry? And he said, we need sober houses. And I was like, what's that? And I just started looking it up on the internet or whatever. And I have a best friend who's in Minneapolis, and he told me about it some more. And 3 days later, not only was I excited about it, I was doing it. It was already done. I was going to be a sober house guy. And so, my model is that I want to have, like, God forbid I relapse and I got to go someplace and cool my jets and work the steps and, get it together again. I want to go somewhere nice, and I want to go somewhere safe,
Yeah.
and I want to go, like you said, where people care about me, and they're doing it for the right reasons because, I help people because it helps me, and
Right.
it's not about them, it's about me too. It's
Right.
almost selfish, right? And so we bought a big house in Congress Park in beautiful downtown Denver. And it's structured quality sober living, and it's surrounded by parks and museums and restaurants and coffee
Beautiful
shops,
there.
art and culture. It's great, public
Yeah.
transportation. Well, I'm not housing people out by the airport away from regular society. We're
Right.
in society. In this part of Denver, there's a lot of 12-step meetings. There's a lot of recovery.
Yeah.
There's a whole community.
Perfect.
And so people come and I plug them in. And if they're not on board in the first week, they will be after the first month. And they've got friends and they've got people and they start to recognize people around town. And so now it just went so well that I opened up more houses, and now there's 5, and I'm trying to open up more. And I have 7 staff people and 40 beds, 45 beds, and it's like a whole thing. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Really, really fantastic to have someone like you in the Denver community that is willing to open up your arms, so to speak,
Yeah.
and let people in that need help. Because I've watched it all my life. I mean, I'm not young anymore, but I've watched, and I had people in my family that suffered from alcoholism, and it was very hard.
We all have, though, right?
Yeah, because as an outsider, because somebody that's not drinking, I think I can help you. I'm sure I can.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No way. No way.
You might understand A through W, but you'll never understand X, Y, Z unless you've been through it, right? And it's not just alcohol. There's an epidemic. There's a whole opioid epidemic. Crystal meth use is up.
Yes.
Obviously, opiates and heroin use is up, and alcohol is up. There's just people dying all over the place from addiction.
And it doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't have to be that way. I believe, if you had cancer, even if you had all the money in the world and the best treatments available, you still might die. I believe if you really want recovery, that 100% of the people can recover, but they have to be willing to do a lot of different things, right? Change your whole life.
We have to have places for them to go, not just be locked up.
No, and yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'd heard that, the Arapahoe House went out of business.
Closed? Yeah, closed.
Closed down. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to say much about that, but I'm glad that there are other alternatives.
There are, but that was a really good one. It was a cheap one. They took Medicaid. It was a lot of single moms, a lot of females, and a lot of people that just can't afford good care. And it's unfortunate that it's not there. Because, as this epidemic grows, it's sad that the places that are actually treating people with addiction are closing because of, lack of government funding, I guess, right?
And where do your clients come from?
I market directly to treatment centers.
Okay.
My most successful client has been to treatment several times at least, and has never gone to sober living, and maybe never done a 12-step program. And we come and they just plug in.
Right.
And I get people from the internet anywhere. I get people from all over, but mostly I market to treatment centers.
And do people get a hold of you through the website, the Mile High Sober Living website?
Yeah, milehighsoberliving.com, or they can call me. I'll flash my number up on the screen. I know we don't have that capability.
Because it's really important that, and I also post it it'll be on my website. I will post your information, all your contact information. I will post this interview on YouTube, so find it there, because seriously, we're here to help each other, and you're doing your part. You're doing your part because you know what it's like, and you know that you weren't almost here.
Right.
And so to be able to connect with someone that's been through what you've been through, and when you talk to people that are going through it, there's a cohesiveness there. There's got to be.
Yeah, that's, people helped me, and that's why I'm doing this. I want to give back what was so freely given to me. I want to be able to help and just
There's
keep.
so many sober living houses around now. I mean, that's the new thing that's popping up. So tell me why Mile High is different than other sober living houses.
It's like sober living 2.0, like back in the 70s, they had Oxford House and it was democratically run, and you'd have, and they still have them, and they're great and they're cheap. But our program is more structured. There's more people, watching you and helping you. We drug test twice a week. We have a spiritual director who helps you with meditation and where you are spiritually. And we have a program director. Everybody's had recovery coaching. We do intramural sports. We have the group meditations. We have workshops. So, plus the location is just like, it's badass. It'll be great downtown.
It is.
Yeah, it's
great. I know.
And it's just, we are a little bit more expensive of a program, but, the point is to get in recovery and stay, and most people, especially if you've done 30 days of treatment and spent 20, 30 grand, you've made a huge commitment. Finish it up, and just, leave the disease behind, right? And then but the problem is statistics are very bad. Like 90% who only do a 28 or 30-day program relapse in the first year. And so that's 90%. That's terrible.
Right.
So, sober living is like, it's the most efficacious tool that we have in the continuum of care. Follow up that 30 days of treatment or 90 days of treatment with sober living and just never look back. You know what I mean?
So before we go, how does your sober living positively impact our communities and the drug alcohol problem a whole?
The communities, sober people, like recovering alcoholics are the best people, we're the funniest, and we're happy to be alive usually, and we're assets, we think on our feet, and I think we're just great people once we're not in the disease, once we leave that behind and sober up, and we sort of wake up, we're really great people, you know what I mean? And God, I live in the city. I could walk 10 feet out there and probably find somebody passed out by a bench. You know what I mean? No. Addiction is rampant. And someone's got to do something about it. We can't just continue to,
ignore
do this
it.
and ignore it. And what happens is people ignore it until it's in their family. There's an overdose.
I know.
There's somebody's kicked out of school. There's an arrest. Somebody falls asleep in the soup at dinner, Then all of a sudden we have a crisis, right? And it's unfortunate, But,
it really is.
Someone's got to do something about it, right?
And I appreciate that you are doing something about it. And I lived in Denver. I lived in Uptown, so I know exactly what you're saying. And when we first moved there were addicts laying in the back in the alleyway, And every time we'd call somebody to come pick them up because we felt so bad. I understand it, but not everybody does. And that's the hard part, is that not everybody understands that this is a disease.
Yeah.
It's not something that people can control.
No, it's not.
Unless they have help.
Yeah, no, it's a fatal chronic progressive disease, and it's been killing people for decades and centuries, and it will continue to do so, and it'll continue to get worse. And locking them up has never worked.
Never worked.
Never going to work.
No.
We need that connection, and we need like a sense of community. We need to recover in community. We need to feel a part of, and that's what we need.
Well, thank you for doing it, and I really appreciate you being with me tonight and talking about Mile High Sober Living and telling us your story, because I know it wasn't particularly lovely, and when I read it, I choked up a bit. And so please look for Brice Hancock on Facebook. Look for Mile High Sober Living on Facebook, and you can also get that website, Mile High Sober Living. Is it milehighsoberliving.com?
Yeah, smilehighsoberliving.com.
Yeah.
Yep.
And check it out. And if you, and this sounds like a commercial, but if you or somebody you know needs help, and you are in Denver or you're not in Denver, it doesn't matter where you are, right, Brice?
Not at all. They can just call me and say, I got this problem, or somebody, what should I do?
Right, right. So please take advantage of that situation. That's why Brice came tonight, because we really do want to change this way that people think, and we want people to really help each other if they can. And Brice is doing that, and he's happy to do it. It's his passion to do it. So please, 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 when you see this interview, if you know anybody that needs help, please steer him his way. I'm asking you to please.
Yeah, do it.
And they couldn't live in a better place than Colorado. That's
No,
all I
it's
do know.
awesome. It's an awesome place to live.
It's so awesome.
I'll never move. I love it here.
I'm never leaving. I said that too, but now I'm in Seattle.
Well, that's okay. I'm from Baltimore, and this is like just so much more. It's so much nicer than where I'm from.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. So again, thank you so much for being here, and come back again, please, because I really want to know how things are going, and I really would love to even have some of your clients. I know some of that is, you can't always go online, but they're welcome to come on and talk about their stories. I'd love, love, love that.
I get you some clients. I have awesome staff members. Some of them are just amazing
Love
people
it.
with crazy, crazy, gnarly stories of recovery, and it's just awesome. Yeah.
And I love it. I love it. I think people need to hear it, because I think we're all not perfect. We all have someone in our family that is suffering from this disease.
And they don't
We
have
can
to
do something about it.
Yeah, and they don't have to suffer.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you,
all
Kathy.
right, everyone. Thank you for tuning into What's Your Story Radio, and thank you, Brice Hancock, for being
Thanks,
here
Kathy.
and all that you do. So, see you next time.
Bye-bye.